Hey everyone, it's Zach Wright with IMEO Company, improving management, employees, and organization. And today we're excited to walk you through what we've been talking about so much over the past few months, which is our workshop, Welcome to Creating Culture That Works. This is a workshop that really focuses on employee engagement, employee satisfaction, life satisfaction, psychological well-being, and how to really get engaged, satisfied, and productive workers in your organization. This is a brief recap of the presentation. So you're only getting the very high level version of this. So I'm going to give an introduction of who I am and why you should care and why you should take this workshop and implement it into your organization. Then we're going to talk about the importance of employee engagement and satisfaction. We're just going to do high level overviews of this. We want you to get the flow of the workshop. That's the entire point of this video here. We're going to go over research for the non-believers. We know that a lot of people look at this stuff being happy employees, as the soft stuff or the fluffy stuff or the kumbaya. Let's sit around a circle, or let's go do some trust fall and team building. That's not what it is. So that's why we're providing specific research to not necessarily convince the non-believers, but give them the information that they need to understand the importance of what we're going to be focusing on. Then we dive into the missing link of productivity and engagement. So a lot of companies are missing out on one particular thing that could change the tables and have your employees more engaged and more productive. Step 5, or section 5, is the characteristics needed for engaged and satisfied employees. Now, this is what we really believe in at IMEO, and it actually comes from our title of the company, or the name of the company: Management, Employees, and Organizations. We focus on the key characteristics for each segment there: employees, management, and organizations. Then we go into misinformation. That's a play on words. Miss, M-I-S, you can see that there's dots in between, so they stand for something. Measurement, implementation, and sustainability. How do you not only know about what makes an engaged and satisfied and productive employee, but how do you measure that? How do you implement it? And then most importantly, how do you sustain that in your organization for the long term? Then we bring it full circle. So the circle of life, satisfaction, and engagement. And lastly, we end with how to create a culture that works. So everything builds upon itself. But before we dive into that, I want to tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm Zach Wright. I am the founder and owner of IMEO Company, improving management, employees, and organizations, where we focus on people, process, and purpose. Now, our mission is to build a world where organizations operate effectively and treat others appropriately. And I'll get into why that's so important to us in a moment. But I'm a business and organizational psychology enthusiast. I would say practitioner, expert, but I like the word enthusiast because I'm constantly learning new ways to go about this topic. And I've taken all the learnings that I've acquired over several years and put them into this workshop for you and your organization to benefit from. So I am a self-proclaimed workaholic. Some people look at that as a bad thing. I don't necessarily look at it as a bad thing because I find work fulfilling. I find purpose in attaching what I do to how I feel, and I truly love what I do, right? A lot of people will tell you to do what you love, but when you love what you do, you can be more flexible and you can see the good even in the stressful, challenging, or tough situations. So, what is my background? My background in my undergraduate is in psychology, with an emphasis on organizational psychology. We didn't necessarily have org psych in our in the college that I went to, but I had an emphasis on that where it was enough to actually tag it into my undergrad. Then I have a Lean Six Sigma certification. If you're not familiar with Lean Six Sigma, that's where efficiency and effectiveness is going to come into play. And if you notice on the mission statement, we chose effective on purpose because you can have an efficient process, but a lot of times efficiency can take out the factor of the person. And if the person isn't going to be maintained well, and they're not going to have that psychological safety or psychological well-being on the higher range, then you're actually not being as effective as possible. Now, I do have my executive MBA from Jack Welch Management Institute. One of the best things that I've ever done. If you are in the market for MBA, I highly recommend Jack Welch Management Institute. So, what is my actual experience? That's my education. What's my actual experience? So, I've coached executives from mid to large organizations. That includes small businesses, startups, all the way to publicly traded companies. And I've mainly focused around IT, tech, as well as strategy and operations, leadership, management, and training and development. And a lot of those that come into play behind the scenes is going to be things like organizational psychology and development. So even though they're not necessarily in my background, each position that I've held, those have come into play. So my story, I'm not going to go into everything, but I wanted to really tell you my story into why I created this workshop. So Laszlo Bach, he's known for saying we spend most of our waking hours at work, more than with friends, more than with family. So if we put that into perspective, why are we not, or why are we accepting the way that work is currently? It doesn't make any sense. If you are not satisfied with your job, there needs to be a change. And there's a few people that you might not think should be involved in this. And that includes you. So if you're not satisfied with your job, then you have some reflecting to do. But the organization and the leader also has some reflecting to do as well. And I think it comes full circle, as you'll see throughout this high-level overview of creating culture that works. So growing up, I always knew I had something that was pulling inside of me. I didn't really know what it was. There's always that question, are you born a leader or are you made a leader? I think that you are a leader, but it has to be pulled out of you. So you can be born a leader, but you have to work to become a great leader. So I found organizational psychology and leadership over my career, over my college career, my professional career, and that sparked an interest so much in me that I'm doing things like this. I started IMEO because I'm so passionate about it, and I believe so much in how we can change the way work is now. There's some other things that made me want to create this workshop as well, which is more on the negative side. And that's I've experienced a bully boss. And what I mean by that is not just necessarily a micromanager, but it was someone who made me question my worth as a professional, but also as a person. And we'll talk about why that's so important. But whenever I was in this organization, I worked there for around 2.5 years. So I know it's not extremely long, but it's not extremely short. We had a leadership change, and the person that came over was micromanagement to the T. They were demoralizing, and they put people down to make themselves feel better. And I made it a purpose of mine to ensure as many companies, people, managers as possible that they don't have to go through that, or to help organizations create an environment where those types of people get terminated or eliminated from those positions. Because if you truly want to reach your full potential as a company, as a person, as a team, as a manager, a leader, you cannot have those type of people in your organization. It sets a precedent, it sets a tone, and it allows behaviors that you do not want in your organization. So I experienced that. I loved the job that I was doing. When that switch happened, I was a high performer. I stayed a top performer, but every single day was stressful. I started having physical elements that were not great. I was fatigued all the time. I didn't necessarily want to go to work. And then my mental stability was declining as well. So that's my reason for creating this workshop. It's very personal to me. It's not just to make money, it's to change and bring an impact for the better into the world of work that we live in today. So I just want to kind of give you an introduction on creating culture that works. So again, I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but in my undergraduate, Belmont Abbey College, I came across organizational psychology as well as positive psychology. And the combination of these two really showed me how managers, leaders, and organizations can impact people at their jobs. I did my thesis paper on the happy productive worker thesis, and that introduced me to what I mentioned, org psych and positive psych. And then it also introduced me to people like Adam Grant, Simon Sinek, Sean Aker, the Happiness Advantage author, and great TED Talk out there. It introduced me to these people that I never knew before. It put substance and it put a tangible thing in front of me that allowed me to say, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. This is the impact that I want to have on the world. This is my purpose. And as I mentioned, I've already gone through the bully boss example. That's really why I wanted to start this. And I just want to have companies and organizations understand that you can't put the blame on the employee for not being motivated, for not being productive, not solely. And we'll get into that. It's not just the employer either. It's the employee that has to focus on their psychological well-being as well. So, what are you going to learn in this workshop? There's a few things. I broke it down into 4 key areas. I hope that you'll take away more. But our workshop is meant to drive the importance of employee engagement and satisfaction in your organization, the importance and benefits that you can expect. So this is going to come from the research that we provide, but it's also going to come from how you measure, implement, and sustain, which we'll talk about here in the key takeaways. But we're also looking at how companies overlook certain areas of this. I mentioned before that a lot of companies look at this as soft or kumbaya. But if we look at the bottom line results, if we look at retention, lowering turnover, absenteeism, all these different things, more engaged employees, becoming more productive, having better outside life as well as inside life of the organization. So that's some key things. But the key 4 things that we put here is what exactly is employee engagement and satisfaction. You need to know the two because there's a distinctive difference, and we'll go over that in the workshop. The characteristics of a culture that works. That's where we break it down into management, employees, and organizations. So you don't just go to the organization level, you also go into the individual, into the leader, and different things like that. And it's not just like, you got to train this person. We actually go into some full details there. I talked about this, how to measure, implement, and sustain engagement and satisfaction. One of the key things is in organizations, or a mistake, is that they'll run this initiative or they'll talk about this or that, and then it kind of falls to the wayside as we continue. Then we're going to talk about tools, frameworks, and methodologies to use in your company. This is something that you can use over and over again. This is something that you can use throughout the entire implementation and sustainability approach. And then there's also tools out there that helps a lot of people track this as easy as possible and make it a priority in their organization. So the workshop high-level outline. the importance of employees' engagement and satisfaction, the missing link of productivity and engagement, research for the non-believers, characteristics needed for engaged and satisfied employees, misinformation, measure, implement, and sustain, and then we bring it full circle of life satisfaction and engagement. These 6 topics, now it's going to be interactive as well. We have some questions in there, and we have some takeaways, some extras that we'll throw in after the workshop. Right now, there's some options that you can do. So you can go from a 2-hour workshop, which is going to be the cheapest version. You can go to the 4-hour workshop, which will be a half day. And then you can go to an 8-hour workshop, which takes that full day, and we either come to you or we can do it virtual on any of those examples. So if you're interested in creating a culture that works and bringing this workshop into your organization, please reach out to us at imeocompany.com or shoot me an email at zwright, ZWRIGHT, at imeoconsulting.com. If you follow us on IG or Instagram, you can click the link in the bio and you can set up or schedule a meeting there as well. Thanks so much for watching, and we hope that you take the time to invest in your people and your leaders and really create a culture that works. Thank you so much. I'm Zach Wright, the founder and owner of Imeo Company, and our mission, to repeat it, is to build a world where organizations operate effectively and treat others appropriately. And we want to do this for you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you hopefully at the workshop.